Aloha, my name is Anna Covert. I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is podcasting as a growth engine. My special guest is Dennis DM Meador, the founder and CEO of the Legal Podcast Network, who helps attorneys grow their authority and personal brands at scale, leveraging tactics including podcasting, positioning, and consistent content development. Today, he's here to share how any business professional can build trust at scale and why podcasting is still one of the most underutilized marketing strategies out there. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So DM, let's get started here. Tell us a little Cliff Notes version of your story. I'm really interested to see, it didn't look like from your profile, you were actually a lawyer. So why legal? How did you get to where you were to where you are right now?
Sure. So first of all, coming at you from the beautiful island of Ambergris Key in Belize. So island to island,
Wow.
There we go. Yeah. So, and I think I'll be in your neck of the woods next month, January or February. Yeah. I don't know. I'm on your island. I think I'm on the big island with a K. Is that right?
Kona?
Okay. Anyway.
You want Kona? Yeah.
Kona, yeah. My wife's into, believe it or not, scuba diving. Who would have thought, living on an island in the Caribbean, that she likes scuba diving? Yeah, big shock. I mean, I don't go past 10 feet below the water. Like I'm a snorkeler. She's a scuba-er. But anyway, my life started out Air Force brat first 7 years. Kind of give you the highlight Cliff Notes of Air Force brat first 7 years, 9 states before I was 7 years old.
Wow.
Lots of moving. I can't even count how many places I've lived in my life. I've just had to keep it to states. I think 15 states, 3 countries now. So a lot of moving around in that first part of my life. And then at around 8 years old, we moved to the Midwest, stayed there till basically I went off to college in a place called the Quad Cities, Iowa, Illinois, border on the Mississippi River. Spent my teen year, or from 8 to 13, my parents got divorced. My mom started dating like heroin dealers, crack dealers, pimps. She got into, running the streets, like pretty rough stuff,
Yeah.
So that was pretty intense. Me and my sister kind of took care of ourselves, and that kind of taught me like to keep an eye out for money. Then I moved in with my dad at 14, started my first business, basically took the younger guys in my neighborhood. I had all the snow shoveling, raking leaves, mowing lawns, newspaper routes. And I basically would do the management of them and they would do the work.
Oh,
And so my brother, his friends, there was, 3 or 4 guys, and I managed all these different jobs. That's what kind of got me into, wow, I make way more money and have more time if I put something together than if I actually do it myself. Like
sure.
the person who can put people together, motivate them, and get them moving in the right direction will get so much further than the person who just runs by themselves forever.
Yes.
And so did that. I mean, at 16, I got super serious about church. I became started speaking in churches at 16 years old. I was also like traveling around singing from school. And then I would speak in churches sometimes with that. I would usually speak if I was in like youth group. The youth pastor that I had, he actually wouldn't speak when I was there. Like I had to do the speaking because I had spoken in church. He's like, I'm not speaking when you speak. I was a pastor at 18. I got married at 19, had my first kid at like 22, maybe 23. Well, let's see. My son's 25 and I'm 40. So it's 23. I was 22 when he was born, though, because he's born in February. So super, super intense, young. In my early 20s, I started my first company that was like an actual on paper sort of company where I retired. I actually lived in Romania for 3 or 4 years. That's where my ex-wife was from. And ran my company from there. It was another advertising marketing. I got into advertising and marketing at 18 when I was in school for pastoral theology, and they were just paying the best. And then I went into management and did real well, and then got recruited and traveled and made money. And 20 years old, making $3 to $5 grand a week, like not a bad gig. And then got back into it, created a company, came up with a product. It did really well. I think we were doing like 3 million, 4 million after a year. We started with just me and him in an office and no money. And that kind of, really gave me a springboard into understanding what being a business owner could really do for me. It allowed me to work in fits and spurts. which I tend to be like super intense. Let's work all the time. And then just like, oh, like kind of back
Burnout.
off for a little bit. And then
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's burnout. Like what I call it is I call it energy flow. So because now I'm mostly in a creative state on podcasts, looking over my company, it's mostly stuff that happens up here. What I mostly have to do is live a life that harnesses those moments when intellectual clarity comes in. And you can't box in your brain. If your brain wants to think of something smart at 3 a.m., write it down because chances are you're not going to forget it. So that happened. My business partner ended up ripping me off for a lot of money. I ended up, I had like 15, 20 people working for me, starting a second office of that business. Then I got recruited into the legal industry selling advertising shortly after me and him kind of stopped working together. And I was just like, I'd been selling ads for like $300, $500. And yeah, it was nice. Like I could sell like 10 a day, sometimes more. But like I started talking to attorneys and these packages were like $5,000 a month. And I was like, holy cow, like these people, I thought ads was like $300, like $500. Like, my brain and my money, although I'd made good money, like it didn't, like I couldn't register that people paid that much for marketing. And then I started like talking to attorneys, like, again, started doing very well. And what I found with attorneys and why I've worked with them for over 20 years, not exclusively, but primarily, is they live in a place of logic. So like some business owners, you call them and you're like, hey, you should really do this. And they're like, why should I do it? And you're like, well, I think it'd be good because of this. They're like, yeah, I don't think so. And you're like, well, have you thought about this? Don't you tell me how to run my business? Like, I've done this. And you're just like, whoa. Attorneys, for the most part, if you say, well, have you considered this? Okay, well, yeah. Well, if you consider, and you could have like a logical back and forth dialogue. And
Sure. Makes sense.
you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so for me, it's like I didn't have to like use sleazy sales tactics, playbooks, blah, blah, blah. I just literally could be like, what's the product? Okay, how does this benefit them? Okay, let me go have a conversation now. And so that's why I've worked with attorneys. It's been a personality fit. I was the kid who everyone's like, you should be a lawyer when you grow up. My socioeconomic situation didn't even make that an option. So maybe I'm just vicariously living through them. I don't know, but I enjoy working with them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that story. What an interesting background you've had.
Lived it every day up until
Yeah.
this one and
So,
plan on living several more of them.
so tell me, we're both here on a podcast talking about podcasts. When did you start looking at podcasting as a missing or a real opportunity in marketing that didn't exist before?
So in 2019, I did a podcast about Austin, Texas, and it was kind of just it was a passion project. Spent a lot of money, made none, but came out with a good product, met some really cool, fun people, made some good friends. And what I noticed is like I had so much of an impact just by upping my production like quality. So like everybody was just, like doing podcasts in their garage and doing a podcast, set up in like a closet or whatever. And what I did is, and again, I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying I saved myself a
Before you answer that, where are you right now? Is that a real background?
yeah, that's a 75-inch TV.
It's a TV behind you. Wow.
Yes.
And and around it is it because it looks real. I mean, is it like fabricated or is it a real background?
That's TV. It's,
And then that's
it's
the ground and the real windows and everything?
no, that's that
No.
whole thing behind is a TV behind me.
TV behind you. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say it looks
Yeah.
really like very amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a TV. I saw like I was trying to find somebody to up my game because I started with like lighting in the background and cool lights and stuff, and I was like, that doesn't quite look professional. Like, and then I came across something on like Facebook or whatever, and I went to this company and they're like, well, it costs this much, but you're in Belize, you can't really ship there, so here's our instruction manual. Do the best you can with it. So then I like kind of came up. I bought light kits and I had a DSLR. Bought it. Yeah, so I bought lights, DSLR. I've got a standing desk. I've got this microphone, and just built a 10x10 pod. I call it a podfist.
Interesting.
I think everyone has a podfist now. The term hasn't caught on yet, but it will. So yeah, I mean, having higher production value just it made like I had my choice of guests. Like, you know what I mean? It set my podcast apart.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of planted that in the back of my mind. And then over the next years, up until 23, I had another agency that we did SEO content, positioning for lawyers, but it was, website content focused. And we had done a podcast promotion because we would do like a book for them every once in a while, like an authority book on top of their website content. And then like every once in a while, we'd have like, we're going to take that book and we're going to do like an audio book out of it for no additional cost. And then we're going to do a podcast when we just take the chapters and, then slice it up different. And so when we did that, like people were like, I get a podcast. And like, they just moved on that podcast. And I told my partner, I was like, that moves. And he's like, I think it was a lot of work on the back end. So he didn't like it that much. But I would constantly have attorneys asking me, do you guys help with podcasts?
Mhm.
What do you guys do? Do you do podcasts? Like literally. So go back to 19, which I started with that guy in 18. So go back to 19. I learned what I learned. And now I've worked with attorneys for 20 years. I'm really big on frictionless. Like I don't like friction points in interactions with my clients. If I see a friction point, if I could tell I'm rubbing my clients the wrong way because of this, that, or the other, I'm going to do what I can to smooth that out. And so like
Give me an example of
I
a
was
friction point.
a friction point. I can give you 50,000
Well,
examples
what's
with
the
my
top
clients.
friction point and how do you overcome it for everyone who's listening? What's
Well,
the tip right now
this
that
is-
you can use?
Well, I'll give you what we've overcome because we're constantly overcoming, right? Like we're constantly launching and revamping and redoing our product to make it better and to add more to it. So one of the issues that we were having is like all of a sudden out of the blue, like all of our clients started emailing everybody who had ever come in contact. So me, the salesperson, the graphics guy, the producer, like, every time they had a question, every time they had an issue, I'd be like, okay, who's handling this? And it just become like one email would come in and it would shut down like 5 people for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, what the heck? So what I did was I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to have one client email, client@thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. We're going to get one phone number. We're going to put it on our website. This is the client's phone number. Every client who calls or emails, we now triage. I have one person who mans that email and phone, and they just triage, and then they either handle the stuff that could be handled right away. Oh, I just need to see a proof. Okay, here you go. Boom. Or if their client success person needs to meet with them, then they forward it to client success. Hey, you need to deal with this, blah, blah, blah. And so now I don't get those emails. No one gets the emails except for that team.
That's a really
that
good
thing.
idea.
So that was one example of a friction point that we had.
I love that idea. I might apply that for myself because, no matter, and I know I have a lot of clients who are listening right now, but one of the things that's always, because I get so many emails and I have 20 contractors and lots of clients, and it's so disappointing, when you miss an email that you really wanted to get, right?
Yep.
But it's impossible to see them all. And then, you ask a client to copy others, when they apply to certain types of things, but people forget. So I think this is a really great opportunity just to make sure that it's easy and no one has to think about it.
Yep.
Like the client doesn't have to think about it, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's what I've always been obsessed with that. Like I want it to be easy. So a few things that I did when I started the company, and I hope to be able to continue this, forever. But like when somebody comes on with me, as long as they stay active as a client, I don't raise their rates. So I already in 2 years have some clients that are paying 40% less than my new clients.
Right.
Because
I do the same thing.
they invested in me and stayed with me. The other thing I do is when I roll out new products, I don't roll them out as more ways to get money from my clients. So for example, in January, so right now we do the podcast at the center, and then that becomes the ecosystem of their marketing. So we create 30 pieces of content from one podcast, 10 video clip shorts and reels, 10 audiograms, and 10 static ads. We take those 30 pieces of content per episode and we distribute for them on up to 10 social media outlets, not just Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, but things like Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter X, Pinterest, Twitch. There's like Google My Business GMB, and there's one more that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. TikTok, duh. So now, we started off like, okay, you do the video, you get 3 pieces of content. You can put one out before, then it comes out, then you can put it out after, or right when it comes out, and then you can put one out after. Now, the same person that was with me then that paid for 3 pieces of content is now getting 30 pieces of content.
Wow.
When they were placing it, now we're placing it for them. So we're doing podcasting, we're doing social media. Then we also take the QA sessions and develop it into website content. We take the transcript. I have 2 full-time writers and content developers. One girl's in Atlanta, one lady's in DFW. And, they make good structured content out of it. And then we have someone on our team that all they do is upload the content to my clients' websites. Now, some of them, we just send it to somebody in a marketing agency and they do it for them. But so I added those things. Now in January, we're launching what we're calling LPN Eco, like for an ecosystem. We're adding what we're calling the 4th screen, which is television. So we have 2 apps that we are in the process of finishing up now that are TV apps like Netflix. You download them from Amazon, Roku,
So connected to CTV, connected TV or OTT, over the top television.
It's not, it's not over the top because isn't over the top mostly.
Well, over the top. So there's so everyone who's listening, because I specialize in digital advertising, right, and wrote a book about it and whatnot that Forbes published, and it's a bestseller on
Okay,
Amazon.
maybe you know more than me. Go ahead.
I
Anna.
do.
No more. I get it.
Get there. So connected television means that there's a device. So let's say you have that big smart TV behind you. It's a smart television. Now, if you connect it with a Roku, a Fire Stick, a Xbox, and then you're on your Roku to get Netflix or to watch Amazon, that's connected television. It's a device that's connected, but you don't have to do that. You could go right to your smart television and you could download the app, right? You could stream it, or you could go on your iPhone and you could go to Netflix. You could go either to the app or to the internet and log in on your iPad. So that's called OTT, or over the top TV. Right.
Gotcha.
Action. So there are 2 different complete ad networks. And when I do remarketing, which I'm a specialist in, so if you go to my website, I will cyber stalk you all over the internet, including television, including radio. And for everyone who's listening, if you want to test it out, I'm only spending $300 a month on what you'll witness, which is pretty intense. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It's really leveraging what you're talking about, is what network can you create? How do you use your website as the source of truth and to drive that pixel population? That's what we call it. Which really means the users go to your website, we add them to a pixel pool, and now we're following them, not just with display, but all the way to their televisions, to pre-roll video, which is on the internet, even podcast sponsorships on radio, streaming, and things like that. So you're going to be adding that into your plethora of options.
Yes, and we're also doing a matching service. We're doing basically like white glove over the top of another service that we use, maybe 2, but I'm going to take a person who then cultivates and is like, okay, you get 3 recommendations a month, or you get kind of
like that. How was that? Kind of like what we met on that.
Yeah, like Podmatch. I actually
Podmatch.
So, Podmatch or Matchmaker, one of the 2.
Matchmaker. I think Matchmaker is the one I'm using. I don't think I've used Podmatch before yet.
Podmatch, I actually like a lot. Does a really good job. Alex Sanfilippo, he is a podcaster for podcasters, and doing what he does, he should be. But what we're doing is essentially I've got an account there as an agency, and then we're going to agency my clients into it and some of their shows, and just kind of see, maybe do 10 and then see how that goes, and then do 25. And then my hope is by Q2 or Q3, we have 3 big launches. And I just don't have the agenda in front of me. But by Q2, Q3, we're going to have that podcast matching service where if you want to be a guest, or if you want to host people on your show. And what that does is now we've got one podcast that becomes a television show, something on your phone. It becomes shorts and reels. It becomes website for your content, and literally from 30 minutes of their time. So that's where
So let me ask you now, because that's amazing, by the way. I think that's really incredible. Tell me now, when you being a marketer as well, when clients come to you and say, okay, well, what's the ROI on this? What metrics are you looking for to prove to them that this is turning into business?
So I've never been a big person on tracking all the way down to my client. So what I do, and what podcasts do, and what this approach does is so different because anybody, like all my clients, they're just like, oh yeah, people, everybody I talk to are like, yeah, I was watching your podcast and I had a question. And like, so they literally,
Hear it.
the podcast itself does it back. Like if you look at my testimonials that have been coming in from my clients, like we don't prompt them. We're like, well, what do you like about this? They're like, well, it's easy and we like it and it's helping me. But, honestly, I'm getting a lot of clients out of it. And it's almost like client.
So it's kind of like back to the idea of traditional advertising where, that famous saying of we know half is working, but we don't know what half. It's kind of the same thing. It's like when you run television commercials, traditional TV, you can't necessarily exactly track that boost in your traffic back to TV. But we can say when the TV's running or the radio's running, we had just done better, right? So it's like
Correct.
and that's part of like just overall awareness and not all clicks can be quantified now, and that's specifically important when we talk about bots and what is fake and what is real. Like the most real thing that there is someone telling you, I heard it, I watched it, and now I'm right in front of your face asking you to help me with my business, right? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's what we do. And I mean, our retention is mid 90s. I mean, probably 75% of my clients I fire. The clients that I don't have, not period. Yeah, we bring on 1,000 clients just to keep 250. No, 75% of the people that no longer work with me are because, like, I just sent out an email last week and I was like, all right, guys, send me who you're electing as a client and tell me why you're electing them to no longer be a client.
I mean,
Like,
can I guess why? Can I guess the reason?
sure.
The number one reason is they can't commit to their own schedule. Because I mean, like what I know about with podcasting for myself, because I have two podcasts. This is the one, and we just hit 80,000 subscribers today on YouTube, so I'm really excited about that.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's a very big deal. This is going to be our 95th episode. But then my second book, The Solar Coaster, which I just self-published in September, is already up to 25,000 subscribers. And what I know is the most important thing is consistency, right? And having that guest and making sure to be on time. And if you skip an episode, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I think that's the number one reason people, that's how you fall off. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so, but it's usually has to be two factors if that's one of them. Because like if they're trying to catch up and then we'll be like, because some people like the first 6 months, it was like pulling teeth and then they got a case and then they were like all in and they just like, switched. Okay, I'm going to do a podcast studio and can I do another podcast? And like, we will accommodate that. So it's like, I understand like for the attorneys that, they the time commitment, but that's why I try to do like literally we have 1 hour sessions or 2 hour sessions. If you do a 1 hour session, that's 2 podcasts. If you do a 2 hour session, that's 4 podcasts. So you can do 1 2 hour session every 4 months and just have a monthly podcast.
Wow.
Or so we've tried again, friction, right? So we know that they can't show. And because we're talking about evergreen content, we're not talking about the news and how it impacts criminal defense. We're talking about criminal defense in my state, in my jurisdiction, and how that applies to me.
Yeah.
So that doesn't change nearly as frequently or as often.
Right.
So we're able to we can bank content. Like one of the things that we've had recently, and I just talked about this on a show that I did the other day, we've been noticing we have not a ton, but like 10% of our clients. So we went to like a weekly email that on Monday they get like, here's your podcast, the last podcast that was, the last podcast that went out. Here's the next podcast that's going out on this date. Here's when you should shoot your next podcast. Click on here. Here's your, stats and data for the week. Here's your marketing you need to approve so that we can post it next week for you. Like just kind of a 5 things on Monday morning, get it done in 15 minutes and then off to the side. But what we've noticed is, so before we were just like, it was like herding cats. We were just like grabbing cats and picking them up. And then they were like turning around and scratching us, So like we were doing that before and it didn't work very well. And my team was getting all scratched up. So I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And so we did that. We did, to get them in. Now, you know what our problem is? We have 20 clients who have more episodes than they paid for. Shot in the bank, ready to go. So we're fixing that, but like, I love good problem, bad problems.
That's a good problem,
right?
So what is it? You didn't finish. So what is your number one reason for firing a client? I didn't get the end of that.
If they treat my people poorly,
Mm,
If
yes.
they're rude to my people, if my CS team reaches out to them and, they're like, hey, yeah, I'll get that to you next week. And then they call next week and they're like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, just note it. Just
Yep.
note it. They're not treating you like that.
No.
If they
Agreed.
treat production bad, if they treat my producer or my host or my CS or my graphics people, and there's just certain people, like we have one guy. I fired him 3 times and I've let him back in. I won't say who he is or where he is, but let's just say he's in a section of the country where it is known for being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a personal injury lawyer, if you know much about them.
Yeah.
They are also not known for being soft little, people.
Right.
So he's kind of the there was one other thing about him because I said he's the trifecta of mean.
Got a temper, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, like me or somebody on our team will just get this email. Oh, no, you're not, this isn't working. I don't know. I'm like, you just told me that when we talked 2 months ago that you've gotten 8 huge cases in 7 months out of this and that you're getting more each month. Like, I know that, but like, he's one of those people that can't see the forest for the trees sometimes.
Right.
And so he just kind of reacts in that moment. And so, like, the second time he did it, I was like, listen, my man, like, you need, like, we're done. And he's like, well, no, I can't, I got to have this. And I'm like, then you better start treating my team right. And you better stop reacting and sending off a bunch of emails when you're mad because you had a bad day. We are not your punching bag. And he's like, and this is what most people don't understand about like working with people. Like, you can have real, honest, sincere conversations that are not easy if you're honest and sincere when you have them.
Well, and my recommendation to was listening is, write the email you want to write and then stop yourself and put it into chat, PGT, and say, edit this, because it will come back to you with, like the nice version of what you're trying to say and like really help you. I think that's one of the reasons I think AI now is really can help people, right? I don't know if you've ever used it, but to switch it up a little bit, I got 2 questions for you. So the first one is, are you using what kind of technology are you using to support this content development? Are you using specific types of programs that are cutting reels together? What are your go-to tools?
So when I started this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be AI forward. I'm going to be all about like staying ahead of the curve with marketing and just staying. So, for example, I have an individual, he's in South Africa. He actually used to live on the island across from me, a young man. I think he's like 23, 24 now. He just does AI and he studies it when he's not super busy with projects or whatever. Now I have 2. Actually, I have him. He's in South Africa. He was on the island here. And then I just hired another young man. I think he's in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And he's like 30, 40 hours a week. So between the 2 of them, they are the AI team and automations. And so their job is to, on the one hand, test. Because with technology and SaaS right now with AI, there's something new every 3 days. Everything's revolutionized. And instead of me being like, am I missing out? Am I missing out? What am I missing? What am I missing? Could I just like press 2 buttons and then I make $1 billion? Like, what's going on? Because like, that's what they make us think, right?
I know they make you feel that way. It's true.
No. You're just like, I don't make a lot of money. Like, I guess I got to do what they say. So, I have them test stuff, and then I also have them apply. So one of the examples, and the other thing that I do is everybody in my company, I have them spend 2 hours a week on further education. Whatever their position is, it can be a hard or soft skill, as long as it directly correlates with what they do. So a lot of our guys that do like graphics, and they're constantly testing stuff. So we're testing, like I have somebody testing the script and I'm like, do we need the script for this, that, or the other? We've used Opus Clip Pro. We used to use them to cut up our videos.
Yeah.
The problem I had is Opus Clip changed their algorithm and they were splicing conversations together that weren't making sense. So I need something that works at scale. So if we're producing, we think about 300 episodes, right? A month. It's about what we produce.
Wow.
With just 300 episodes, 10 reels. That's 3,000 reels a month that we create with our team.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Yes.
And so like when you're clipping and 10% of them or 20% aren't good, the problem is when you have a 20% inefficiency in a process and you scale it, it doesn't scale very well.
No.
So we had to go away from their algorithm and just kind of use a combination. We're still testing, but we mostly pull raw. We also have like QA people who do a lot of stuff. So I'm always examining our processes in what we're using that is external, what we're using that's internal. I have a team. So we have 60 total. I think about 30 are in Pakistan. And that's where like the backbone of like video editing, audio edit. And I don't hide this. Like a lot of people hide this stuff. And it's like we all have people in other parts of the world.
We're a global
Like,
community now, and this is the whole
yeah,
point, like, yeah.
exactly. So
I have people over the world who work for me too.
yeah,
I don't have any in Pakistan though, but but
we're at 9 countries. We've got the Philippines, we've got Pakistan, we've got Egypt, we've got South Africa, we've got Kenya, Ghana, the Netherlands, U.S., Mexico, Belize, El Salvador. Oh, we're at 11 countries now. So
And let me ask you, how are you finding your team? Are you using like a crowdsourcing or how do you
honestly,
find this diversity?
this has been the best recruiting era I've ever had in my career. LinkedIn, I just freaking put up an ad in LinkedIn, and a day later, I have 100 to 1,000 applicants, depending on the position.
Right.
And then it filters them. I look at the ones that's filtered. That's usually about an 80% hit rate. And then the ones in the middle, because they're like good, better, best, although they use different language. And it's based on your criteria. Then I go to the middle and I kind of peruse through there, just make sure that somebody who I know doesn't have some of the right ingredients isn't being overlooked. And then I'll look at the last one. So I've pulled a bunch, but like a lot of people, I've been pretty fortunate. Some people I know, some people I've come in contact with, some people worked for me in the past. I've had people that like when me and my partner kind of parted ways, like they did whatever it was according to like how it needed to be with like permission of leaving him to go to me because we had to do legal stuff. Like I couldn't recruit them, but I still have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that worked with me before in my old company. So it's kind of a combination. So like Pakistan, that's all done by my team leader over there, Saad. And then these other countries have been from ads or personal relationships.
That's interesting. So I've got another question for you here. So as we've this the other day, I had another gentleman on the podcast who specializes in AI, and he had sent me a podcast that he had created using AI and some other tools, and he made it in like 5 minutes. He did one for me on a Zoom as well, where he took my website and 2 voices, and he used a couple tools, and it delivered back like a story. It was like dialogue between 2 voices, AI voices, but it sounded like humans talking about my website and about what I did, and it sounded incredible, right? It sounded just like the real deal. And he's like, oh, you could do this for every client. You could do this, really quickly. You could also have, you could create your own video. It could be like on a AI, right? And at first I got really excited. And then I started to think, well, this is a scary time for podcasters, right? Because if we can create content like that without ever having to shoot a person, right? Or creating a video, there's now looking to be millions of pieces of content out there. Who's actually going to watch them and listen to them? Do you think there's going to be a convergence? Are you concerned, or do you have any thoughts about, where the market's going as everyone starts to jump into this content creation? And is there going to really be authenticism later?
Absolutely. I think that the call to being authentic is louder now than it's ever been. And here's why. Like, we're moving over to this like personal branding and founder-led marketing and all this stuff that's happening. Why is this happening? Because people have personified companies, because people are closer to 5 influencers that they follow than they are to their own 5 neighbors next to them.
True.
And that's just true. And so
we've all watched Desperate Housewives, Dennis. So we don't want to be friends with our neighbors. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I think ultimately people are craving connection through the outlet that they know. And this is what we know now. We now have a generation that grew up like this. We learned this behavior. I'm saying we 35 and above, 30 and above. We learned this through our life, but everybody else lived this.
Yeah.
And so we aren't seeing a need for less humanity. We're seeing a need for more humanity. And the people who are not afraid to be human are the ones who will do well in this. So it's going to be about, I'm going to say the top 5 to 10% of companies are going to have a layer of humanity. The bottom 5 to 10% are going to be pretty much just slop, AI junk. And in the middle, there's going to be some sort of like, varying degrees of the two. That's what I think. So like, I always tell people this, like, people can feel humanity. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I was listening to Spotify a couple weeks ago and I was like driving. I don't remember where I was driving. I was in the States. So I must have been in Oklahoma. Yeah. So this was back when I was in Oklahoma. I had Spotify on and I was listening to it. And all of a sudden, this podcast came on. And I was like, this doesn't sound right. Like and I looked and it's AI podcast from them, just basically that about it. And I was just like, nah, I'm not interested in this. And I went to the next thing. I think it's going to be the same thing. People
His
will
spidey
detect it.
senses, it's like, yeah, you have to, and I think that that's important too, because, now when people become addicted to this scrolling, and we both know, that 60% of content on social media is created by bots, right? It is not real. It is not authentic. And now you're addicted with this cheap dopamine that of people's lives that aren't even real lives, right? And that is I think you're 100% right. That is like we have to now use the intuition of our, spidey senses, if you call it, to really tell us, we've all been so used to saying yes in life, right? Like, oh, like it now is time for us to start saying no, right? And like what is our intuition telling us about who to trust and who not to trust? And these are one of the ways that you can do that, right? Through consistent podcasting and authority building through tools that are really out.
Well, and I think there's other, I mean, authenticity, and I know it's such a trite word now, but it really is like being real. Maybe I'm just going to start saying being real because authenticity is like a catchword in our industry right now. But being real cannot be replaced. One of the things I started doing with LinkedIn now, I've been playing the LinkedIn roller coaster, getting my numbers up and developing relationships. And I've developed some great referral relationships and we get tons of clients through it too. So like it definitely has a great product. But what I've started doing with my personal posts is if I post it instead of like a reel that my team does and uses ChatGPT to write but like here's a picture, here's something from my life, a story or whatever. I've started doing a little asterisk at the end and I'll say, this post is certified organic, no use of Grammarly, no use of any AI. This is purely just me, everybody. I'll even say this post is semi-natural. I used a AI system, but it was my thought and I edited it a bunch. Like I literally just say, this is what this content it is. Then below that, I used to put pick for reach. It couldn't possibly be that my wife likes it when I put up a picture of the two of us together and it gets me brownie points. But I like to do things like that where I just kind of like two things. So I'm doing it for two reasons. One is I want to create an atmosphere of authenticity where people are like, I like about that guy. He actually tells you when it's him versus just, stuff coming out. Number one. But number two, I'm trying to trick the algorithm a little bit because people who do read my content, they know if they go to that spot, they're going to get what do they always have to do to get to that spot? They need to hit that more
button.
There's a lot of like what I've noticed this algorithm, all of them right now is they are action based, not like click, comment, share, like the old Facebook algorithms, right? They did everything based off of what people did with the content, not how people interacted with the content. Now content is all about like, I'll have 32 likes on something and 400 reach. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I'll have like 12 likes on something and like 3,000 reach. And I'm like, well, like according to the old algorithms, this performed way better, but it actually didn't perform better. And like, why? Because if people are clicking the more, if they're clicking, on the thing, if they're staying their cursor there and actually reading it, and like, that's all stuff that we can't track. But we can see the results of it to be like, oh, this content really moved. It just didn't get the outward signs of movement that we're typically used to.
It's called stopping the scroll.
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this has been really interesting. What do you have any final tips for anyone or who's listening who might want to get into the podcast industry or expand their
Uh,
roots with podcasting?
if they're looking to expand their reach, what I always tell people is where you start is where you want to end, which is your client. Who is the client? What is their demographic? What are they like? What is their age? What do they face? Because the more you know where you want to go, the more you can build backwards from that. And I love the illustration of the the maze that you used to get where you had to like kind of go around on the page.
Yeah.
Easiest way to beat it would be what?
Go from the back way into the front.
Exactly. Start
Yep.
from the end. And all I'm telling people to do now is like, just start your marketing there. Most people start their marketing internally. I am a lawyer for 27 years. I went to Harvard and then I was on this and I tried this case in 1993 and everyone's like, so? But when they come to a site or they come and interact with digitally with an attorney and the attorney's like, okay, what's the problem? Oh, you have your third DUI? Well, here's a 20-minute video. Here's 3 things you really need to know about that. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, wow. Oh, okay, I'll do that. Man, then contact him. Okay, well, of course I got to contact him. But like now there's clarity. So build your marketing from where you want to go and build backwards instead of the other way around.
That's a great tip. So how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can come visit me on my island, but if they don't do that, then they can LinkedIn is a great place. That's pretty much where I try to be my most, with a filter of the fact that I'm in business. And then, the legalpodcastnetwork.com is another place, if you're interested in what we're doing, if this is in 26, then you should be able to drill down and we're 27 or onwards forever because we're making evergreen content right now, Anna.
Hey.
So, we have the Authority Podcast Network and the Expert Podcast Network coming as well. So chances are, if you're a professional who really wants to be separate from your competitors because of what you know versus like what you've done, then we can help you with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. And for all my listeners, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert in topics to help you succeed on and offline. Big mahalo. Just today, we reached a little over 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. And that is because of you and your aloha. So continue to subscribe and share this content with your friends and family so that I can continue to have great guests like Dennis here on the show to provide their insights and help us all elevate our brands. I will see you next week in the Pixels. Aloha. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Covert Code Podcast. If you're loving the insights we share here, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more digital innovators like you. Share this episode with your friends and colleagues on social media and help spread the word. And if you're in the solar space or just curious about where clean energy is headed, I'm thrilled to announce my brand new podcast, The Solar Coaster. This show digs into the real stories, trends, and challenges of the solar industry, with bold conversations and powerful takeaways you won't hear anywhere else. Follow the Solar Coaster now so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the Pixels. Aloha.